Hello guys, HAF HD here and welcome back to another video, and today's video is going to be the build video for the i5 2500K video. Now, since the last video some things have changed. Now, if you watched that video you would have known I was getting two GTX 760s, but if you look here I only have one, and that's because the seller thought I only wanted one even though I paid for two and specified that I wanted two, so that should be coming at some point in the next few days, which is kind of annoying, but there's not really much I can do about that. But also, this card is faulty. If you look, this fan gets jammed when it's spinning, so when the system's on, that fan doesn't spin. That one gets jammed too, and that one spins just fine. Now the seller is claiming that it might be dust, but surely if it's dust he should have cleaned it before he sold it, and if it was dust it would have been broken when he sold it as well. Taking the fans out, they're not rubbing on the outside, so it's the actual fans that are broken. Now I can buy replacement ones, but really I shouldn't have to, that's the seller's responsibility. So I've had a few messages with him, nothing's been resolved yet, but that's just something that I'm going to have to deal with. And also the case, the HAF X, two of the wheels in shipping got damaged, so at some point I'll have to take those off and try and glue it back together. Very annoying, but that's shipping companies for you. There's not really much I can do about it, so let's just get on with this build now. And the first thing I'm going to do is put the power supply in. So I've not attached any of the modular cables yet, so it's going to go in the bottom, fan facing down. And because I've got the case on its side, I'm going to have to try and hold the power supply up so it lines up with the fans. I should have probably done this while the case was still stood up properly, but now I'll just try and screw this in. Okay, I've just got 3 of the 4 screws in, that should be fine, it's nice and secure. Now I will mention that I do also have the power supply shroud to go over the power supply, so that just goes in and covers up the cables if you want it to. But now I won't be putting that in just because it needs a bit of a clean, but that should be easy enough to put in later. So now I've got the power supply in, just with the 2 stuck in cables. Let's try and put in the motherboard. Now with the motherboard I've already put the CPU, RAM and cooler on, just because I needed to test that they were working and to test the graphics card. So they're already all together. The standoffs I've checked are in the right places, so I'm just going to move these cables out of the way. Then we should be able to put the motherboard in. One thing I did fail to think about was motherboard screws. I haven't actually got any of those out, but once I know the motherboard lines up, I'll go find some screws. I think I've got some from the Antec case from a while back, so I'll just go find those once I know that the motherboard fits. Okay, I've just put the board down. It seems to fit just fine. The cooler should have enough clearance with the side panel on, and that looks quite nice. So I'm just going to go get some screws, screw it all in, and hopefully we should be fine with this. Usually I've got a bit of trouble with I/O shields, especially Asus ones like this, but this one worked just fine. I actually didn't put the I/O shield in my main computer just because it was such a pain, but yeah, this one's gone in very nicely. Okay, I've got some screws. I'm now just going to screw this, and I won't film it because that's kind of boring. Okay, so all but 1 screws are now in and the board is looking very nice. I like the Cooler Master cooler. It matches the Cooler Master logo on the case as well, so yeah, this should look very nice. And it's just that screw there that I couldn't get in. I'm not exactly sure why, but shouldn't really matter. The board is secure enough as it is. So now let's get these power supply cables and plug them in. Okay, so what I'm going to do with the 24 pin is put it through the hole at the bottom of the case next to the power supply. I don't know if you can see this or not, so apologies. And then I'm going to have to go under the case and through to this cutout just here. So I'm going to have to lift the case up, get the cable under, push it through. There we are. Now let's pull it. Pull, and then plug it in. just like that. There we go, that's clipped in, that is fine. Now the CPU power, let's see, it might only just reach, so I'll put it out of the same hole at the bottom so it's nice and hidden. Then I'll try and route it along the back of the motherboard, then plug it in at the top. Okay, so I've just put the case upright, and I'm not sure if you can see because of the lighting, but I have managed to plug the CPU power in. Now the connector was just slightly too big to fit through the cutout at the top of the case, so I had to kind of bend the metal slightly, but it's alright now, it's through and the metal looks absolutely fine, so yeah, no problems there. Now I've done that, let's plug in all the front panel connectors. That's not something that really needs filming, it's just kind of a boring thing, so yeah, I'll do that now, and I'll probably plug in the fans too. I don't think I need this Molex adapter on the end, so just a standard 3-pin fan. I'll plug that in somewhere now. At some point I would like to get a 5¼ inch fan controller to go in one of the front bays. I think that will look really cool, probably one of the ones with the screens on. So I'm not going to be too worried if I can see the fan cables for now, because at some point soon I should get one of those controllers. Okay, I'm now on the floor, and I think I've plugged in every connector for the front panel, apart from front HD audio, because the slot for it is all the way up there and there's no way for the cable to reach, but that's no big deal. If I decide I want it, I'll buy an extension cable. But yeah, everything else looks absolutely fine so far. So what I'm going to do next is plug in the graphics card cables too for when the other card arrives. So yeah, I'll now do that. Okay, so I've just put the graphics card power cables in. They're both here, and I've put the power supply shroud on as well. I've given it a clean. It's still not perfect, but it should be fine because the window on the case doesn't show the bottom anyway. So now what I'm going to do is take out the expansion slot covers, which I won't be needing. So one of them's already out, so I'll take the next one down, and then the next two for when the second graphics card comes. Okay, slot covers are now out. The PCI clip is back. I'm now going to put in the graphics card and then plug in its power. Okay, there we go. The graphics card is in. I must say that looks very nice indeed, and of course it'll look a lot better when there's another one underneath it as well. I'm not sure the side panel will fit in with this cable sticking out so far, but that shouldn't be a problem, because when I get the second card, that connector can go into the one below, and then one of the ones from below can go into there, and that should make it a bit neater and not have that bulge. So yeah, not too concerned about that. So I think it's time to turn this thing on. I also forgot to say that there is an SSD in here now. I've put one in. Windows 10 is already on it from testing this computer yesterday, so all the drivers are also installed as well. So yeah, let's turn this on and see if it still works. Okay, so I've plugged everything in that I need to plug in. I've plugged in the network as well, so let's turn it on at the power supply. I will slide the cover so I can get to the power button, and let's just click go and see what happens. Absolutely nothing, because I forgot to turn the power on at the wall. Okay, let's try that again. Let's now click the power button up here. I can hear fans, and I can see blue lights on the motherboard, and we've got a red light on the front of the case. Let's see. There we go, that is just a power light. Can we get the fan LEDs? No, I'm not too bothered about that. I probably just didn't plug it in. I can see the fan in there is spinning. I can feel it. Yep. Definitely working. The back fan is working as well as the top one. Top one's not moving. I completely forgot to plug that one in, so I'll do that later. But let's see if we can get anything on the screen. There we go, Windows. Okay, there we go. As you can see, I'm in Task Manager now. You can see Core i5 2500K, so I have not been scammed. That is the right one. We've got 8GB of RAM showing up. The speed is a bit low, but I'll change that later in the BIOS. SSD, of course, is there. Ethernet's working. Graphics card, GeForce. Is it going to tell me the full name? Does it say anywhere? Not too sure. Yep, they're GTX 960. So it is the right card, which is good. So hopefully when the other one arrives and my SLI bridge comes, we can do SLI. I have installed the NVIDIA drivers, so the control panel is here, so we should be able to enable SLI over here once the other card comes, but unfortunately, still 2 of the fans aren't spinning on the graphics card, so maybe I will have to buy replacement ones, but let's just see what the seller says first. They're completely jammed and just not doing anything, which is very unfortunate. So yeah, not sure what to do about that, but the computer as a whole is working. The graphics card seems to be working. What I'm going to do now is download Cinebench and let's see how the computer performs. Okay, so while waiting for Cinebench to download, I've just plugged in the top fan. You can probably see it spinning there. Now, I'm not exactly sure if it's an intake or an outtake. I've had a feel both ways. It doesn't really seem to be pushing air one way more than the other. But I'll probably replace it with an LED one at some point, so it's not really too much of a concern now. When I put my fans in here, they will probably be outtakes, but that's something that I'll have to think about and probably experiment with, so yeah. Cinebench is nearly finished, then let's give it a go. And you've got to bear in mind that the processor hasn't been overclocked yet, and we probably won't do that in this video, just because it's extra content, isn't it? So at some point we'll do an overclocking video, hopefully we'll get better performance. I'll probably do that once I've got 2 working graphics cards. But Cinebench has just finished, so now let's take a look at this. Okay, so Cinebench is now open. I'm just going to run the CPU test, just the standard one, not the single core. Let's just run and see how many points it gets. I'm not exactly sure what my Ryzen 5 3600 gets, but it's probably a lot more than this, and I'm not expecting this even with an overclock to compete with my other computer. This is just something a bit different to have a bit of fun with. So I'll come back once this is finished, but so far it actually seems to be going quite quickly. That's quite impressive. It's nearly done now, and honestly it was quicker than I thought it would be, and there we go, we finished. And how many points did we get? We got 1018, so it's 4 cores, 4 threads at 3.3 gigahertz. Honestly, I've never looked at results for this processor before, but I'm assuming that is about right. I'm not too sure, but that is, of course, is at its stock speed of 3.3 gigahertz. I believe on this motherboard we should be able to get up to 4.5 gigahertz. I'm not sure if I will go that high, but we can definitely get into the 4 gigahertz range, which will be quite good, and hopefully then we should get a bit more of an impressive score. But I think that that is it for today's video. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully we can have some more fun with this machine in the future, and I will see you then. Goodbye. So I know I said I'd gone, but I've just plugged in the fan on the side panel, and that's actually a blue fan. Now I thought these cases came with red ones, so either that's been changed or I did my research wrong and you can actually get one with blue. So I'll have to get the front fan working and see if that's blue too, because if it is, that's 2 fans that I won't need to replace. I'll still get blue ones for the top and probably at the back, but yeah, that's good. But yeah, I've gone now. Goodbye.